Picture this, you're on stage with your bass, the band leader turns to you and says, hey, this song's in the key of F sharp major. And then the drummer turns around, counts in the tune, and you're off. Now, if you know this basic F sharp major shape, you may be able to kind of get away with playing the song. But do you actually know all the notes in F sharp major? If you're playing in a tricky key like F sharp major, you may feel comfortable playing down here, but what about if the bass line's up here? Do you know all the notes in F sharp major up here? Learning the actual notes of the major and minor scale is super important because these two scales really make up the foundation of Western music harmony. Even if you just learnt the major scale and all 12 keys across the neck, you can use that scale to learn songs, you can use the number system, modes, and all these other harmonic devices to actually learn songs inside out. But it's a really daunting task trying to sit down and just memorize all 12 major scales and all 12 minor scales. So what's the best way of going about learning all your major scales across the entire fingerboard? Now, some teachers teach the whole step, half step kind of method. I've never used that personally, and it's never really helped me make the connection between theory and actually playing bass lines and music. So in this video, I'm going to share a very simple 5-step method that's helped myself and all my students memorize all 12 major keys and all 12 minor keys across the entire fingerboard and actually learn what the notes are in all of those scales. So let's grab your bass and dive into step 1. Step 1 is the musical alphabet. As you probably already know, music is a language, so it has its own alphabet. But the great thing about music compared to, say, English or other languages is that there's only 7 letters in the musical alphabet, and they are A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. So the first 7 letters of the English alphabet. Now, these are all the 7 natural notes in music. Natural notes meaning they're not sharp or flat. With each one of these 7 letters, you can sharpen the note. So you can take a C and make it sharp. And you can also flatten each one of these 7 notes as well. So you can take a C and flatten it, which would actually just be a B. Now, as you can see on the screen, some of these notes actually cross over and they're the same note, but just spelt differently. So in English, for example, I would spell the word color like this, but Americans would spell the word color like this. Now, these two words are exactly the same, with the same meaning. They're just spelt differently, kind of like A flat and G sharp. Exactly the same note, they're just spelt differently. So why is this all important? Well, this brings me on to step 2, which is where we rearrange the notes of the musical alphabet. So let's say we're in the key of D major. Now, what you would do is you would take the 7 notes of the musical alphabet, but you would start those notes on D. So you can get a piece of paper and write out D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. So you just take the 7 notes of the 7 natural notes, or 7 notes of the musical alphabet, write them out on a piece of paper, but start on the first note of the scale. So if we're in the key of D, you would just start on the letter D and then write out the rest of the 6 notes. Now, step 3 is to figure out how many sharps or how many flats are in this key. So our example key here is D major. So we have to figure out how many sharps are in the key of D major. So if you're trying to figure out how many sharps are in any given key, we're going to use a pattern on the fingerboard to memorize this. So if we play a G, just our open G string, and then we go down and play a D, and then we go down and we play an A. Now, G has 1 sharp, the key of G major. D major has 2 sharps. A major has 3 sharps, right? So you see that pattern. And then if we go 2nd fret on the D string, we play an E. E major has 4 sharps, go down 1 fret. B major has 5 sharps. And then F sharp major has 6 sharps. So you can see that pattern: 1 sharp, 2 sharp, 3 sharp, 4 sharp, 5 sharp, 6 sharp. Now, if you want the fretboard diagram and everything written out, there is a PDF workbook that comes along with this lesson. You can just click the link below to grab that. So if you'd like to figure out how many flats are in a key, start with the F. F major has 1 flat. Then go up a string, right? First fret on the A string is a B flat. B flat major has 2 flats. Go up 1 string. E flat major has 3 flats. Then you're going to do exactly the same thing, but go up to the 4th fret. So A flat major has 4 flats. D flat major has 5 flats. G flat major has 6 flats. So by using this pattern, you can memorize the order of flats in any given major key. So let's go back to our example. We had the key of D major. So to figure out the key of D major, we're going to do the order of sharps. So G major has 1 sharp. D major, there it is, has 2 sharps. So now we know D major has 2 sharps. Say we're in the key of A flat major. Okay, so order of flats, 2, 3, 4. A flat major has 4 flats. Now it's one thing understanding this and comprehending all this theory, but it's another thing actually taking all this theory and connecting the dots and applying it to actual bass lines and music. And that's where one-to-one feedback and mentorship can really help. If you would like to study with me, there is a link below, or you can go to studywithjazz.com and there'll be an application on that page that you can fill out to potentially become a student of mine. Now we know how many sharps or flats are in any given key. The next thing we need to know is what those sharps or flats are. So we know in the key of D major, we have 2 sharps, but what are those 2 sharps? And this is where you just need to memorize 1 sentence to figure out the order of flats and sharps. To figure out the order of sharps, use this sentence: Father Charles goes down and ends battle. And if you take the first letter of each one of those words, so father, F, Charles, C, and so on, then that is the order of sharps. So if you have a key which has 1 sharp, it will be an F. It'll be an F sharp. If you have a key with 3 sharps, it'll be an F sharp. So father, Charles goes. So F sharp, C sharp, Charles, C. Goes, G sharp, or a G, right? So father, Charles goes, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp. That'll be 3 sharps. So as you can see, you're always adding on from 1. And they'll always be in this order, by the way. So with D major, would have 2 sharps, right? So we've got F sharp and C sharp, Father Charles. If you just flip that sentence the other way around and say, battle ends and down goes Charles's father, you have the order of flats, and all the same rules apply. So if you have a song with 4 flats in it, the flats would be battle ends and down, right? So that's the first 4 sentences. So we have battle, B, so a B flat, ends, E, E flat, and or A, A flat, and then down, or D, D flat. So battle ends and down, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat. Now it's important to note that it is best practice if you're in the key of, say, F sharp major, to keep all of the notes sharpened and don't add any flats. Don't mix the flats and sharps. And if you're in the key of, say, G flat major, which is technically the same key, right? So G flat and F sharp it's the same, just spelt differently. But if you are in the key of G flat major, you keep all the notes flattened. So you don't mix up the flats and sharps. That's if you want to be technically correct. So now you take that scale that we had from earlier, where you just had all the natural notes or the musical alphabet, but starting on D. So D, E, F, G, A, B, C, right? You've got that written out on a piece of paper. And then you just take the 2 notes that are sharpened, the F, you sharpen the F to an F sharp, and you take the C and you sharpen the C to a C sharp, and then you have magically, ta-da, the D major scale. Before I go on to step 5, just to make sure this really sinks in for you, because it's actually really important, and this has really helped a lot of my students when it comes to decoding all this kind of theory stuff. Let's do this with another scale. All right, so this time you're on the bandstand and the band leader says, okay, this song is in the key of A flat major. All right, step 1 is to write out the musical alphabet. Now, as the first note is an A flat, we already know A flat's going to be in the scale, but we'd write an A flat and then we'd write B, C, D, E, F, G. Don't worry about the flats and sharps just yet. Step 1 is just to write out the first note of the scale. So here we have A flat, and then the rest of the musical alphabet. By the way, when you're first doing this, it's quite useful to write this out on a piece of paper so you can visualize it. So that was step 1 and 2, the musical alphabet and rearranging the musical alphabet. Step 3 is to figure out how many flats are in the key of A flat major. To do this, do the pattern that we learnt from earlier. So F has 1 flat, B flat, 2 flats, E flat, 3 flats. There it is, A flat, 4 flats. So there are 4 flats in the key of A flat major. To figure out which notes those 4 flats are, we use the sentence battle ends and down goes Charles's father. So battle, B flat, ends, E flat, and is the A flat, down, D flat. So take that scale that you had written down from earlier, make the B flattened, make the E flattened, the A is already flattened, and make the D flattened as well. And now you have all the notes in A flat major. So when you come to play in the key of A flat major, instead of relying on these shapes and patterns, not really knowing what notes you're actually playing, if you do know the notes on the fingerboard, I've got other videos on how to memorize the fingerboard, you can check out them out on this channel, then playing in A flat major has just become a whole lot easier because you actually know what notes, like what flats and what notes are actually in the scale or in the key. Now at this point you're probably thinking, what about minor keys? Well, it's fairly easy to figure out minor keys once you know all your 12 major keys by using relative keys. Relative keys are where you have keys or scales with exactly the same sharps or flats. So for example, C major has no sharps or flats, and A minor has no sharps or flats. So those keys are related, almost like a brother and sister, right? But the difference is that they start on a different note. That's the only difference. So if I played C major starting on an A, I have the A minor scale. So let's say I'm playing a song in the key of F minor. The first thing I would do is figure out the relative major. The quickest way to figure out relative keys is that they're 3 frets apart from each other. So to figure out, say if you're playing in F minor and you want to figure out the relative major, you go up 3 frets, so 1, 2, 3. So A flat major is the same as F minor. Let's say you're playing in E major. To figure out the relative minor, you go down 3 frets. So 1, 2, 3. C sharp minor is the same as E major. So let's say you're playing a song in B flat minor. First, I'd figure out the relative major. So go B flat, I go up 3 frets. So we have D flat major. Then I'd go through the steps that I've already outlined with the musical alphabet and then finding out how many flats are in the key of D flat major. And once you've figured that out, then playing B flat minor will become very easy. So you'd write out all the natural notes, starting with a D flat. So D flat, E, F, G, A, B, C. And then to figure out the flats, you'd go 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so there's 5 flats in D flat. And then you would go, okay, battle ends and down goes Charles's father, battle ends and down goes. So those are the 5 flats. I'd write them in. I'd write in a B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, and G flat. Now we have all the notes in D flat major, but we're playing in the key of B flat minor. So just start that scale on a B flat and you have all the notes in B flat minor. To help these 5 steps sink in, I've actually written them out in a PDF workbook with all the fretboard diagrams and everything. Just click the link below and I'll send it over to you for free. And if you enjoyed this lesson, check out this video next where I talk about how you don't really need to learn the modes. There's actually a far faster way of learning music theory by using the method I share in this video. Click the video now and I'll see you there.